topic is understanding reflective practice, but in reality, what we need to discuss is some information on infant mental health. I'm going to use the term infant mental health because there's less words in it and it's easier to say. It rolls off my tongue much easier. But the term has actually been kind of updated to what I put in the bottom, which is infant and family early childhood mental health. So it encompasses not just infants, but it's geared towards looking at children who are under the age of 6. And reflective practice is a concept within that philosophy, within that stance. So I just wanted to give a little bit information to people who may be unfamiliar with or new to the idea of infant mental health. And the concept began in the 1970s, so 50 years ago, when in clinicians in mental health practices or working with young children, where children were coming in with problems and mental health problems. And clinicians typically will deal with the client, which in this case is the child, but really found that doesn't really work because you can't the child is nothing without the family. So they began to feel that what was needed was for clinicians to be working with the parents and the child. And the stance was looking at it, calling it an infant mental health model, which is that you're looking at the mental health of babies and children through the lens of working with the family. And what it is it's the belief that all infants, toddlers, and young children should be nurtured and protected by adults, usually their parents, in an environment that provides the basic for secure parent-child relationships. It's within these relationships that infants and toddlers and children build strong or not so strong foundations for all of their development. That's their emotional development, their social development, and their cognitive development, and even some of their physical development. And this is California Association for Infant Mental Health is one of the organizations in California. It's a national organization that's a good resource. I didn't include resources in this, but I'll send that to Brenda and Susanna, and they can pass it on to you. There's the Infant Development Association in California, as well as 0 to 3, which is a national organization. And what the goal is of infant mental health and working with families is to improve the emotional and social well-being of young children and families by strengthening their relationships with each other. That being that seeing that this is the interactions that parents have with their children is critical for a good strength-based relationship development. And as humans, we're programmed to seek and form relationships with others. And we do that best in the context of a healthy, caring relationship. So if you're a child in a family where mom and dad are very much together, or even doesn't have to be a two-parent family, but that there's a strong sense of caring for a child in a healthy way with good modeling, then that's going to strengthen the child's relationship with them and get a better sense of themselves. The other goal is also to help parents feel successful and confident in raising their child. Again, from a mental health model, we know that many parents didn't grow up in very loving and nurturing relationships. So the idea that they have any sense of how to do this themselves is something that they just don't. It's something that they didn't learn. They didn't see it modeled for them, how to be loving, how to be caring, how to be patient with a child. So they need some help, and they need to feel that they're successful. So that's the interaction with the professional. The other piece of that too is that when you have a child with special needs, you're not necessarily, excuse me, oops, went the wrong way, sorry. You need a different kind of caring as well. And I'll get more into that later. So I'm going to start off with this little clip because I think it sort of gives you a good foundation into how parent-child interactions really, how much of an impact they have on a child's behavior and self-regulation. This is Ed Tronick, and again from the 1970s, is a researcher who did research on babies and parents and interaction. And this is called the still face interaction. And you can, again, look these videos up on YouTube and find them. But I like it because it's such a dramatic video. And then I want to, so pay attention to how you're feeling as you're watching this, because I want to get feedback from people when it's over. Okay, we can share that with each other. All right, there you go.
Karin, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Does the video have sound?
Scientific findings suggest
I hear it.
this isn't what many think it is. You see, most people believe that intellectual learning, reading, counting, and the like, is separate from emotional and social learning. But that's just not the case. Emotion is critical to learning. Babies process sensations from the moment of birth, and even in the womb. They sense that a light is bright, or that a parent's touch is soft. They immediately attach values to those sensations, emotional reactions. A loud noise hurts, a caregiver's bedtime lullaby, soothing. It's through these emotional connections that a baby's brain begins to learn about and organize the world. Even more, researchers have found that it's connection to the people in a baby's world that makes the most difference. Children are wired to learn through their important caregivers.
What's this? What?
And we as adults are wired to teach them. Dr. Edward Tronick of Harvard and Children's Hospital's Child Development Unit has devised a way to show how important this social connection is to babies and how much it affects them when the connection with a parent or caregiver is broken. First, Dr. Tronick places 6-month-old Mackenzie and her mother face to face. He asks mom to talk and play with her daughter the way she normally does.
Hi, sweetheart.
Obviously, their connection is strong. The baby is engaged, responsive, clearly emotionally content. Then, Dr. Tronick instructs the mother to disengage by making a still face. She stays there, but doesn't respond to her baby. Mackenzie is confused at first. She's not used to mom acting like that. Mom turns back, but keeps the still face. Mackenzie expects her to re-engage, but when she doesn't, look how the baby reacts. Even at this young age, she tries to entice mom to interact with her. She reaches out. She smiles. She flails her hands, all strategies for getting mom's attention. When that doesn't work, she becomes fussy.
Sorry.
Emotionally agitated. And finally, she just gives up.
The meaning of the event is this emotion that the infant is experiencing in relationship to this breaking of the connection in relationship to the mother. And that's a fearful, frightening thing. And the infant will do a lot to try and overcome it. But when they fail with a sense of helplessness and a loss of control.
Dr. Tronick then asks mom to re-engage. It takes a moment, but soon the world goes back to normal for Mackenzie. This striking dynamic happens not just with parents, but with any close caregiver, and at any age, like with 2-year-old Michael and his mother. Mom puts on the still face, and Michael tries everything he can to reestablish connection. When he fails, he falls apart dramatically, just like the younger child. Children also have another reaction. Watch when Quincy's mother disengages. He becomes distraught, then more and more insistent, and even physical. But when mom re-engages, the connection is re-established.
You did it. I did.
And Quincy goes back to being his normal, happy self.
We're talking on the phone?
Children are resilient, and breaks in close connection happen all the time in every family.
What are you doing?
What usually then takes place in good relationships is this reconnection that we've seen.
And we know now, looking at the interaction, that they're only maybe 20, 30% of the time is the interaction perfectly, quote unquote, perfectly at sync. The rest of the time is sort of, you're in sync, you're out of sync, you're getting back into sync. And that's really what I think is the key process, which is getting back into synchrony.
Dr. Tronick believes that the process of disconnect and reconnect is not only normal, but positive.
When you reconnect, one of the things that can happen, not always, but some of the time, is that you create something new. If you create something new, you grow. And babies are about growing.
Welcome back. So, what were your reactions to that? What were the things that, how did you feel about watching that? What kinds of things did you notice? I think it's rather, can be really upsetting sometimes. What were some of the things that people saw? Move on a little bit, but I really am, I'm not good in the chat, but I really I'm looking at it and seeing the different ways that people have responded. And I think, talking about bonding and connections that we build being so important, acknowledging the role of the caregiver, the sadness of looking at this, seeing the child withdraw, all of those things. And also several comments about appreciating and sending hugs to folks who were saying how they were experiencing this video. So, and appreciating their sharing. And that's nice too. And that's what I love about this Early Start community is we all really are one large community and really care about each other. So thank you for all of that. Now, let me get back to